Part 2 is coming out soon. But if you want to get an exclusive sneak peek at one of the parts of the movie, you can go to youtube.com and get an exclusive sneak peek. See you there.
When you're a kid, everything seems possible. Your dreams are infinite and anything could happen someday. Then someday turns to one day, and then one day turns into now. And then now turns into am I too late? Someday looks like yesterday, and today feels impossible. And somehow, even though you're grown, you still feel like the kid you once were. I was always a fan of the 4-year plan. Try, fail, progress, succeed, win was usually the order. You grow up, you go to school, and the 4-year system in high school and college gives structure. It gives checkpoints and finish lines and rules to tell you if you're making good or bad decisions. So, in 2019, I finished college, moved my tassel from the right to the left, and felt the slate clear for my next 4-year plan. Setting up structure in an unstructured world can be difficult. Everyone encourages you to try everything, but no one informs you of how long trying everything will take. It feels like every new thing you try gives you knowledge, but robs you of time. If I had a nickel for every time I thought to myself, if only I started this sooner, or if I only tried harder then, well, I would be rich. Notice how I've used the word feels rather than a more definitive is when describing navigating these challenges, because even though something feels impossible, it rarely ever actually is. I have a misconstrued concept of aging in time. And if you're looking for an explanation of why, well, I've been in the world of theater and dance my whole life. An industry that often values youth and looks over personality or humanity. From a young age, I felt like I was running out of time. I look back and laugh, thinking about how at 14, I felt old. It was the first time I felt like time had passed me by. I could no longer play the roles meant for children, and I realize now I never would. I felt like it was too late. And I laugh at that 14-year-old me wanting to tell her how young she actually is. But at the same time, right now, at the age of 26, I find myself feeling a very similar way. All the trivial and small things that happened as a kid has impacted the way I look at success. I always thought when you're older, and when you're wiser, you won't feel like this anymore. And yet here I was in my 20s feeling more like this than ever.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the vlog, everybody. At the start of each new year, I like to reflect on the past year, typically in a video format. And all of these videos I mainly make for myself, but I share as well for anyone going through similar experiences. Over the past few years, I've made videos from becoming a better version of yourself, to changing your life, to even a love letter to myself last year. So when I sat down to think about the theme for this year, I knew after the crazy year I had, this video needed to be a reflection. I like to write what I know, and I don't claim to have any answers, and I don't claim to know what I'm doing. But I wanted to share my experience and share how this past year has changed me. At its core, this is always advice to myself. If you've watched my channel over the past few years, I have shared a lot of ups and downs, and this year was filled with some of my highest highs and my lowest lows. But at the end of the day, I regret none of it. I wrote a journal entry that kind of blossomed into this video, so I'm sharing my journey so I can always remember how I felt in New York City when I was 26 years old. I had graduated college, moved to my apartment in New York City, and was ready to start my adult life. I was ready to pursue theater and perform, and I was ready to move forward. So, where are you left to go when a career you barely have had is put to a halting stop? The year was 2020, and I don't think I need to touch on the setbacks and struggles and nuances of living through a global pandemic. We all experienced it. But through that experience, all of a sudden, it was 2023. 3 years had passed in a blur, and I felt like I had nothing to show for it. I had yet to make my return to theater, apart from a couple of dance classes and an audition here or there. I felt completely lost. In those 3 years, I had found myself working a marketing job at a tech company, and I had started a YouTube channel to fill the creative void of theater I'd been missing. And in those years, I also had a lot of self-discovery and growth, but we never seemed to give ourselves credit for any of that. After 3 confusing years, I knew I had to change the life I was living. I had to act now, or else I would watch my dreams disappear before my eyes. I was scared, and I didn't know where to start, and I didn't want to fail. I think I have a bigger fear of being perceived as a failure than the actual act of failing itself. On this very YouTube channel, I didn't tell people I was a performer until a year and a half in. My initial videos were filled with work from home content and days of my life where I never once mentioned any creative endeavor. And why would I? I felt like an impostor saying I'm an actor, and honestly, I still do. I felt like I had nothing to show for it besides a very expensive college degree and a few jobs here and there. But somehow it didn't feel like enough. So, here I was, ready to take the plunge and follow my dreams again, but I was scared. I all of a sudden learned how easy it is to trade in dreams for stability. And absolutely nothing is wrong with that. Sometimes that choice can end in a much happier life, but I knew it wasn't for me. So when I got laid off from my job in December of 2022, it was a divine sign. I decided 2023 would be the year I followed my dreams. But now I had a reimagined view and perception of what those dreams were. What I saw for myself in 2020 was very different from what I wanted for myself in 2023. I was turning 26, and what I thought my life was going to look like and what I would have accomplished by now was very different from the reality I was facing. Where my world lacked the theatrical experience I thought I would have had by this point, it was made up for in other ways. First off, I had a growing YouTube channel, something I never would have imagined years ago. And this channel had grown enough to sustain me financially in my year of discovery, which was a huge blessing and privilege. I had the mindset that I would treat YouTube as my full-time job, and if I felt like I couldn't support myself anymore, I would go out and get another job. Second, my priorities had shifted. When I first moved to the city in 2020, I lived with roommates and I was ready to leave the city at a moment's notice to work at theaters around the country. Now, I was in a studio with a cat and had established strong roots of community in my city and neighborhood. Leaving for a job, even if it was just for a few months, was no longer so easy and not necessarily something I craved. Part of me felt bitter that I lost my time in my early 20s to have those experiences, try and fail, travel the country, something I didn't long to do anymore. Part of me felt relief though. Instead of falling into the mold that was made for me when I graduated, I could do things at my own pace in my own way. You grow up thinking success is one thing and one thing only. For me, it was working at the best theaters with the best people and just being the best. Honestly, the way I thought of success was very performative and very materialistic. But what if success was just doing what makes you happy? So, I set rules for myself. 1, be fearless. 2, only do things that bring you joy. And 3, don't think about what others think. I followed these rules to the best of my ability, but at the end of the day, I still had fears, I still did things I didn't love, and I still cared a whole lot about what people thought of me. At the core of all these goals, though, was one through line. One thing I needed to do if I ever wanted to succeed. Get rid of my ego. Ego is a word you grow up hearing a lot. At least I did. And you associate someone with a big ego as someone mean or conceited, which can be true, but it can also be something that holds you back. And so I realized one day I have a big ego. It was why I was always so concerned about what people might think or say. It's why I never gave myself permission to fully perform. It was why I was always thinking in the back of my mind what people would think of me as a person when they saw me in a show. Even though I was playing a character, I was always more concerned with myself. My ego is what was holding me back from getting better. The fear of taking an acting or dance class and having people 5 years younger than me be there and be better. The fear of not being perfect at performing even though I went to college for it. The fear of what people might think about me vlogging, and especially what they would think about me vlogging about performing. So I worked on trying to unlearn the embarrassment I felt from made-up thoughts. Made-up thoughts that people didn't like me, or thought I was bad, or thought I was strange. And at the end of the day, if people did think these things about me, how was that any of my business? So between my dreams of performing and YouTube, I did the best I could to throw away my ego and just focus on being present. 2023 started off as a fresh slate in more ways than I could have imagined. One lost job, one breakup, and one apartment fumigation later, I felt like a brand new person. The slate was wiped clean for me to do whatever I wanted. I no longer had to look out for anyone but myself, and my cat Bennett, of course. And I had time to create things for myself and pour myself into my work. Instead of only filming videos in the evening after work, I could film whenever I wanted. I was able to take dance class during the day, I was able to audition in the morning, and that's what I did. I was nervous making this video because it doesn't end in the stereotypical success. As much as I would love to say, and now I'm on Broadway and I have 100,000 subscribers, that isn't realistic. I had a growth that was way less tangible, but way more meaningful than I expected. I learned to be independent. I learned to be brave. I learned that no one is thinking about you as much as you think they are, good or bad. I learned that there is no one timeline for success and it's never too late. I learned that community is important. I learned that dreams can change. And as far as the tangible things, I took dance class. I fell in love with singing again. I gained 30,000 subscribers. I learned how to play the piano. I made it to the final callback of a show I really wanted and didn't get the part, but reminded myself I can do this. I sustained myself financially by doing solely things I'm passionate about. I created my own community online. I found a community in dance. I performed for the first time in 3 years. This year was not the year I expected, but the year I needed to wake me up. It's easy to sit back and wait for the right time, but there's never a right time. You just have to do it. I am leaving this year a completely different person than I was a year ago, but all for the best reasons. So, I finally started following my dreams this year, and I finally gave myself permission to. I have no idea what the future holds for me, and I have no idea what my dreams will turn into, but that's what's exciting. And I no longer feel like I'm running out of time. I feel like I'm creating the life I want to live one step at a time. I'm so thankful for the life I've been given, and I'm so thankful for the communities I have. It's okay to ask for help, it's okay not to be the best in the room, and it's okay not to be sure exactly what you're doing. 2023 was the craziest year of my life, but it put me on the path I needed to be on. Every once in a while too, I need to remind myself while I'm still searching and following my current dreams, I'm living the dream that 14-year-old me always wanted to right now.